Across our small blue world, a constant hum of hope rises toward the heavens. A mother sits by her child's bedside. The rhythmic beep of a hospital monitor the only sound in the room. She whispers a desperate plea for healing. A farmer, his face etched with worry. He gazes at a cloudless sky, praying for rain to save his crops and livelihood. A student facing a life-altering exam flips a page then closes their eyes, seeking a sliver of clarity and calm. These moments are universal, transcending culture, geography and time. They are the language of human vulnerability, a direct line we attempt to open when our own power feels insufficient. This act of prayer is ancient and deeply ingrained. It expresses our desire for control in a universe that often feels chaotic and indifferent. We pray for blessings, we pray for strength, we pray for miracles. For centuries, the question of prayer's efficacy was confined to the realms of theology and philosophy. It was a matter of faith, not fact. To even ask for empirical proof was seen by many as missing the point. Prayer was about a personal relationship with the divine, an act of submission and hope outside the rigid laws of physics and biology. It was a conversation, the outcome a matter of divine will, not a predictable result that could be measured in a laboratory. The benefits were spiritual and internal. Then the dawn of the scientific age brought a new kind of curiosity. Science by its nature seeks to understand the mechanisms of the universe. If a force exists that can influence events, the weather, human health, then that force, however subtle, should be detectable. To answer this cosmic question, researchers needed a study of unprecedented scale and rigor. Many smaller studies had been conducted over the years, but their results were often mixed and their methods questioned. What was needed was a definitive large-scale experiment that could withstand intense scrutiny. This need gave rise to the study of the therapeutic effects of intercessory prayer, or the STEP project. Published in 2006, it remains the largest, most scientifically rigorous and most famous investigation into the power of prayer ever conducted. The study was led by Dr. Herbert Benson, a cardiologist at Harvard Medical School, and was funded by the John Templeton Foundation, an organization known for its interest in the intersection of science and religion. This wasn't a casual inquiry. It was a multi-year, multi-center endeavor. The researchers chose to focus on patients undergoing coronary artery bypass graft surgery. This type of surgery is a serious medical procedure with a well-documented range of potential complications, making it an ideal event to study. Any positive or negative deviation from the norm could be carefully measured and recorded. The genius of the STEP project lay in its elegant and careful design. To get a clear result, the researchers had to do more than just compare a group that received prayers with one that didn't. They needed to account for the psychological effects of knowing you are being prayed for. Does simply believing that strangers are wishing you well have a placebo effect? To address this, they divided the 1,802 patients into 3 distinct groups. This three-pronged approach was crucial for separating the potential effect of the prayers themselves from the effect of the patient's knowledge of those prayers. Group 1 was the straightforward control group. It consisted of 604 patients who did not receive intercessory prayer from the study's congregations. Importantly, these patients were not told whether they would be prayed for or not. They were simply left in a state of uncertainty, representing the baseline for recovery without the study's intervention. Group 2 was the core of the experiment. This group, with 597 patients, received intercessory prayer from the designated prayer groups. Just like Group 1, however, these patients were not told for certain that they were being prayed for. They were also in a state of uncertainty. This design was brilliant because it isolated the variable of prayer itself. Group 3 was designed to test the placebo effect. This group of 601 patients also received intercessory prayer, but with one critical difference: they were told that they would be prayed for. This allowed the researchers to see if the knowledge of being prayed for had an impact. After years of meticulous planning, execution, and data collection, the researchers of the STEP project compiled their findings. The medical world and the public alike leaned in, expecting an answer. The primary outcome the study measured was the rate of complications in the 30 days following surgery. These weren't minor issues. They included serious problems like heart attack, stroke, major infection, and even death. The results, when they were finally unsealed and published in the American Heart Journal, were not what anyone expected. Group 1, which received no prayers, had a complication rate of 52%. Group 2, which received prayers but didn't know for sure, had a complication rate of 51%. This difference is statistically insignificant, but the most shocking result came from Group 3. This group suffered the highest rate of complications, a staggering 59%. The STEP project stands as a giant in the field, but it's not the only scientific voice on prayer. It's part of a larger chorus of research over decades. One of the most notable is the Mantra 2 study published in 2005. It looked at 748 cardiac patients and found no difference in outcomes between prayed-for patients and controls. A major review from the Mayo Clinic reviewed best quality distant healing experiments. Up to 2,000 pooled data from 23 trials concluded no scientifically convincing evidence. A few smaller studies showed slight positive effects, but they had methodological flaws. When the highest quality trials were pooled, the effect disappeared into statistical noise. A few older studies, like Randolph Bird 1988, reported positive results, but were heavily criticized. Problems with randomization, problems with data analysis, failures to blind participants and researchers, stricter replication attempts consistently failed. The pattern is clear. High-quality studies with proper controls fail to find a measurable, statistically significant impact of intercessory prayer on health outcomes. We are now faced with a profound disconnect. On one side, we have the overwhelming collective experience of billions of human beings. For millennia, people have prayed and have felt that their prayers were answered. They've witnessed recoveries they considered miraculous, and have found strength in moments of utter despair. This is the evidence of the heart. On the other side stands the cold, hard evidence of science. They're seeking an objective signal in the noise of everyday life, and as we've seen, when these rigorous tests are applied, the signal disappears. The believer might say, "But I saw it with my own eyes. My mother was sick, we all prayed, and she got better." A scientist would respond, "But how do you know she wouldn't have gotten better anyway?" How many people were prayed for who did not get better? They're pointing out that our brains are wired to see patterns and make connections, even when none exist. This clash highlights a fundamental difference in what is considered proof. If the scientific evidence is so clear, why does belief in intercessory prayer remain so widespread and deeply held? The answer lies not in the cosmos but in our minds. One major factor, confirmation bias. We notice, we favor, we recall information that fits our beliefs. When a prayer seems answered, we remember it vividly. Unanswered prayers, we discount, we ignore, we rationalize failures. The result is an unfalsifiable belief system. Successes get counted as proof, while failures are reinterpreted so the core belief isn't challenged. People crave a sense of control. Prayer gives a sense of agency. It feels like doing something, like participating in the outcome. These psychological and social benefits are tangible and significant. So, where does this journey leave us? We began with the universal human instinct to reach out to the cosmos for help. We followed that instinct into the sterile, controlled environment of the scientific laboratory. Culminating in the landmark STEP project, we've examined the data, listened to the chorus of studies, explored the psychological underpinnings of faith. The verdict of science is unambiguous. The most rigorous studies, large-scale studies, carefully controlled studies, have found no evidence that intercessory prayer affects others' health outcomes. Patterns that appear to be answers to prayer when viewed through statistics are indistinguishable from the background noise of random chance. From a purely scientific standpoint, the case is closed. The hypothesis has been tested and it has failed. However, science can only answer scientific questions. It can tell you the chemical composition of a teardrop, but it cannot explain the feeling of sorrow or joy that produced it. The choice to believe, or not to believe, remains a profoundly personal one. The evidence is clear, but the choice, as always, is yours.